Hello everyone, this is Money Mom. Welcome to the channel. Today I wanted to share with you guys 12 ways frugality has changed since the 1980s. Let's get started and talk about it. I got this fantastic idea from my dear friend Sarah, and I'm going to link her channel below over at Backroad Money. She is younger than me, so I was born in '65. A lot of my young childhood was in this late 60s and then the 70s. So I'm going to share with you my experience. Hers, she's younger than me, was primarily in the 80s. So she had a different experience than me. So I'm going to link her video below so you can check it out. So I'm going to kind of compare how I was raised and what frugality was like back then compared to what I am seeing now. Let me know if any of you are around my age. I'm 59. I don't know if some of you are mid-50s to say between 55 to say 62. Maybe some of you have had these experiences. Okay, the first one, because my mother did not work outside the home, most of the mothers in our neighborhood growing up from say kindergarten and on, they did not work outside the home. They had one breadwinner, you know, and it was the man, and he would go out and work, okay? Now, a few women did a few seasonal things occasionally, but the women generally stayed home with the kids, saw them off to school and such. Now, we did have a bus that came to the neighborhood. So most families in our neighborhood had one car, okay? And so that saved money right there, having one vehicle. And it was used to go to and from work. Okay, the second thing is we all had smaller homes. I grew up much of my childhood in a 3-bedroom. Now, we did have basements in Minnesota. 1-bathroom home. We did not have walk-in closets, so we couldn't buy a whole bunch of clutter because there wasn't a place to put it. So we didn't have a lot of items. And we also, when we, for example, had a Christmas tree, I remember my mom used to have themed trees and starting in the 80s. But growing up, we had the same old decorations every year. So we all had a smaller home back then. We did upgrade later, but not in the 70s. Okay, another thing I noticed is number 3, we didn't go shopping all the time. We didn't do window shopping. There weren't malls like in the early 70s. I think more of them came out maybe late 70s, early 80s. But we didn't go shopping all the time. We basically bought things seasonally. We ordered a lot of things from the Sears catalog. And like, for example, the summer was coming up, my mom said you can pick 3 outfits. And that was it. You know, you had a pair of school shoes, a pair of dress shoes, and a pair of play shoes. And the other thing that I noticed is that we took care of everything really well. Everything was made well. My mother ironed, pressed, and repaired things, and we kept things for a long time. And many times, some of the items that she put in the closet, she would wrap them like in plastic and things like that, just so that it stayed nice and clean and pressed. So that's something that I did notice. So things were made to last. As a matter of fact, and I know I've shown them on this channel before, I have a coat from my mother from 1980. It looks brand new. I'm not even kidding. And she wore it quite often. So that's what I noticed. Number 4, we kept things, we mended them, we pressed them, we took good care of things. We weren't just buying clothes off a clearance rack, keeping it for 1 or 2 seasons. Once we bought something, we kept it for a while unless it didn't fit us anymore, and then we passed it on. Okay, number 5, neighbors helped each other a lot. You know, everybody had different skills. If somebody was working on their car, a next door neighbor would come over with his toolbox and help out. If somebody was doing something in their kitchen with some plumbing, somebody else would be over helping out. You might feed them, you know, everybody. And also people would pick up each other's kids. So neighbors helped each other a lot, which saved a lot of money. We all knew each other. We knew practically everyone in our circle in our neighborhood. And I'm not saying every single person, but I'm going to say a lot of the people in our neighborhood we knew, which I think is quite different, you know. Maybe we should all go around our neighborhood, knock on the door, and introduce ourselves. Okay, the next thing is for number 6, we had game nights. We would play cards. We would all share snacks and drinks and things like that. And people would come over, we'd play board games. I used to love to play cards. I have not played cards in years. We used to play 500 rummy, all different kind of card games, and we had fun. We played cribbage. We also played things outdoors as well, and I really enjoyed that. You know, I remember we used to have that wet slide that you'd slide down in the summer. We'd run through the sprinkler. So we did all sorts of very, you know, inexpensive or free activities. I used to roller skate around the neighborhood. I was on my bike constantly. By the way, when I roller skated, I had pom-poms on my roller skates with little bells on them. I don't know if any of you had that, but I used to love that. So a lot of these things were free. It was a lot of fun. The next thing is for number 7, back then, now this is early 70s. There's a big difference between early 70s and late 70s, okay? But early 70s, many of the people in our neighborhood had good jobs with benefits, so you could live off one income. A lot of the people in our neighborhood worked for Ham's Brewery, a lot of 3Mers. Some were truck drivers like my father, so they worked for one of the trucking companies and were a Teamster. You had Anderson Windows. So, I mean, you had some really good jobs. Then now when some of the women went back to work when their kids got in junior high and high school, they would maybe be secretaries at some of these places or do some office work. But they always had benefits and also had a pension. So that really helped out too. So that's something to kind of consider. Basically, number 8, everything was made to last. If you had something, it lasted a long time. From kitchen appliances, washer, dryer. I don't remember us replacing our washer and dryer all the time like folks do nowadays, or replacing, you know, different types of electronics and things like that. Things were made to last, such as your shoes, your clothes. You know, I noticed all the kitchen stuff. Like when I went to visit my dad in Phoenix, Arizona, when I went to visit him, do you know a lot of the stuff he has that he still uses is from 1960. Things were made to last. It was quality. You know, you hear a lot of people say things aren't made like they used to be. Okay, and basically, and I already kind of mentioned this, free entertainment. Now, occasionally we would, you know, go out to eat and things like that, or we might go to the state fair, but things weren't as costly back then, but it was seen as a treat and it was very minimal. So you did not go to fairs all the time. You didn't go to concerts all the time. You were not out doing that. You found free ways to entertain yourself. Also, you used the library a lot. You know, you'd borrow books from your neighbors, things like that. Okay, which brings me to number 10. We only ate out, not always either, on special occasions. I don't know if you remember a restaurant called Farrell's. I remember I had my 7th birthday there. I had to stand on a chair. I had 2 little braids on the side, had to wear a Farrell's hat, and everybody sang to me. And so I remember having that one special birthday. But other than that, we had birthdays at home with just a few family and friends. So that's something else that we did. We rarely ever ate out. So, you know, we just did not spend money unless we really needed it. And last but not least, or not last but not least, I actually have 2 more. We did use our clothesline. My mom did hang up clothes. We helped too. So we did try to conserve electricity, keep the windows open and all of that. So that really helped save money. And last but not least, I wanted to say this, is that we didn't talk about frugality all the time. We lived our life. My dad taught us, you don't talk to people about religion, you don't talk to people about politics, you don't ask them about their finances or money, whether they're getting married, having kids. You keep off people's personal life. You don't ask them questions. And so we grew up with that, and that you just didn't talk about that stuff. So nobody talked about their finances. That's a huge difference now compared to now. So bottom line is, sum it up in a nutshell, we had a lot less stuff and we lived a lot simpler life. But I feel like in many ways it was easier to do that because you weren't required, like nowadays so many people have multiple jobs, multiple side hustles. Back then you could actually live off one income because you had really good benefits and you were paid what I call a working wage. And so, in other words, this is terrible to tell you, I remember in the 1970s, my dad made 40-some thousand a year. He made then what I make about nowadays. So that kind of gives you any indication. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. I don't know what year you were born, what years you grew up, but I want to ask you guys this question. How has frugality changed since when you've grown up? What are some of the differences? I'd like to hear from you in the comments below. And do any of you miss the decade you grew up in? I sometimes miss the 70s, especially the good music. Anyway, that's all I have to say, guys. I love you, I appreciate you, and I hope to see you on tomorrow morning's video. Bye-bye now.